Meghan Markle's latest venture into the luxury lifestyle market has stirred up controversy and legal trouble. Her raspberry spread, launched under the As Ever brand, promised an artisanal touch but quickly fell short of expectations. Instead of a handcrafted delicacy, it resembled a mass-produced factory product. And to make matters worse, it failed to meet essential FDA labeling requirements. With trademark issues and consumer skepticism piling up, Meghan's jam is already being labeled a potential business flop. When Meghan Markle unveiled her raspberry spread under the As Ever brand, the promotional content seemed to hit all the right notes. The video featured picturesque shots of raspberries being carefully picked, then smoothly processed and elegantly placed into jars. Meghan herself made a subtle appearance in the background, holding a glass as if to embody the sophisticated lifestyle she aimed to convey. On the surface, it appeared to be the perfect blend of luxury and artisanal craftsmanship. However, viewers quickly began to notice that the presentation did not quite match the product's supposed artisanal essence. Instead of showcasing a small batch, handcrafted production process, the video gave off a distinctly commercial, mass-produced vibe. Critics were quick to point out the disparity between what was promised and what was actually shown. The sleek Instagram video might have aimed to evoke a sense of boutique craftsmanship, but it looked more like a clip straight from a large-scale supermarket factory. There was little to indicate that the product had any connection to the kind of local, high-quality ingredients often associated with true artisanal foods. Instead, it appeared that the raspberries were being handled in bulk, tossed into machinery, and churned out in an impersonal, conveyor belt fashion. The lack of transparency in the production process raised eyebrows, with some wondering whether the jam was genuinely handcrafted or merely marketed to appear that way. Meghan's involvement also seemed more performative than practical, leading to doubts about how much influence she actually had over the product's creation. Was this really a passion project born out of her love for homemade jam, or just another attempt to capitalize on her brand? The comments flooded in, many pointing out that true small-batch producers usually highlight their local farms, emphasize the hand-picked nature of the fruit, and focus on preserving quality at every step. In contrast, Meghan's video offered none of these assurances, leaving consumers questioning the authenticity of the product. As the debate raged on, one question lingered. Was this jam really made with care and attention, or was it just another branding exercise aimed at boosting Meghan's entrepreneurial image? Questionable authenticity. One of the most significant criticisms surrounding Meghan Markle's raspberry spread is the lack of authenticity in both the product and its marketing. When launching a product, especially one marketed as a luxury handcrafted item, consumers expect a level of transparency and genuine craftsmanship. However, in the case of the As Ever raspberry spread, many were left questioning its origins and the sincerity of Meghan's involvement. The promotional video, while visually appealing, failed to provide crucial details. Viewers were not informed about where the raspberries were sourced, who was responsible for making the jam, or even what ingredients were used. Typically, when promoting an artisanal product, brands emphasize the local farms, the personal touch in production, and the quality of the ingredients. Instead, Meghan's video showed a glossy yet vague portrayal of jam making, which only fueled skepticism. People began to dig deeper into the brand's claims, and what they found did not match the luxurious, handcrafted image being presented. Meghan's attempt to include herself in the promotional images, holding a glass as if to signal elegance, only seemed to reinforce the perception that the product was more about aesthetics than substance. It felt less like an honest introduction to a carefully curated product and more like a marketing scheme designed to leverage Meghan's celebrity status. What baffled many was the contrast between the product's branding and the reality of its production. If this was truly a small batch, handcrafted delicacy, why was there no mention of the source of the fruit, the people behind the jam, or the care that went into each jar? Instead, the process appeared more aligned with large-scale manufacturing, which contradicted the high-end boutique appeal Meghan aimed to create. As more people questioned the legitimacy of the jam's handcrafted claim, it became clear that the brand had not done enough to establish credibility. In an era where consumers value transparency and authenticity, especially in food products, the lack of clear information only damaged the brand's reputation. Meghan's image as an entrepreneur took a hit, as many perceived the entire project as a disingenuous attempt to profit off her name rather than a passion for quality produce. Marketing gimmick. The backlash did not stop at just questioning the authenticity of Meghan Markle's raspberry spread. Many also called out the entire marketing campaign as nothing more than a clever gimmick. The promotional content had all the hallmarks of a luxury lifestyle brand: clean visuals, subtle elegance, and an air of sophistication. Yet, as consumers started to examine the product more closely, the illusion began to fall apart. One of the most glaring issues was how Meghan's presence in the promotional shots seemed strategically placed to evoke a sense of refinement. Holding a glass, dressed in stylish attire, Meghan appeared almost detached from the actual product. It was as if her role was merely to lend an air of exclusivity rather than demonstrate any real connection to the jam itself. This created a sense of disconnect that made many question whether Meghan had any real involvement in the product beyond lending her name and image. The video's focus on aesthetics rather than substance also drew criticism. Instead of providing insights into the jam-making process, the video seemed more concerned with presenting an upscale image. In reality, those genuinely passionate about artisanal food production often share their story, the journey of crafting the product, and the passion behind it. In contrast, Meghan's campaign came across as overly polished and somewhat impersonal, leading to accusations that the jam was nothing more than a mass-produced product disguised as a boutique offering. What further fueled the perception of the product being a gimmick was the lack of storytelling. Consumers today are drawn to narratives that reveal the heart and soul behind a brand. Whether it is the story of a family recipe passed down through generations or a personal journey of discovery, authentic brands share more than just a label. Meghan's raspberry spread, however, lacked that personal touch, which made the entire endeavor feel forced and insincere. In the world of luxury foods, authenticity is paramount. The disconnect between the marketed image and the reality of the product not only disappointed consumers, but also led many to feel deceived. As more details about the production emerged, it became increasingly evident that the campaign prioritized style over substance, making the whole project appear more like a celebrity-endorsed branding exercise than a genuine culinary passion. FDA compliance failure. One of the most significant blows to Meghan Markle's raspberry spread venture came when it was revealed that the product failed to meet the stringent requirements set by the United States Food and Drug Administration, FDA. In the food industry, compliance with FDA regulations is non-negotiable, especially when a product is marketed to consumers as a premium, handcrafted item. Unfortunately, Meghan's raspberry spread fell short of these legal standards, casting a dark shadow over the entire project. According to FDA regulations, any food product sold to the public must clearly display essential information on its packaging. This includes a complete list of ingredients, nutritional facts, batch numbers, and crucial allergy warnings. However, Meghan's product, despite its luxurious presentation, contained none of these mandatory details. Without proper labeling, the raspberry spread not only appeared unprofessional, but also potentially unsafe for consumers. In an era where consumers are increasingly conscious about what they consume, such an oversight is more than just a minor mistake. It's a significant violation. The consequences of non-compliance can be severe. Products that do not meet FDA standards can be pulled from store shelves, recalled, or even banned from being sold entirely. For Meghan, who aimed to create a luxury lifestyle brand, such a public and regulatory failure is more than just an embarrassment. It could signal the end of the product before it even has a chance to thrive. In addition to potential fines, the negative publicity associated with a food safety violation can damage the brand's reputation beyond repair. Critics and consumers alike question how such a fundamental mistake could have occurred. Was it a lack of experience in the food industry? a misguided attempt to rush the product to market, or simply a failure to understand the legal requirements? Whatever the reason, the omission raised serious concerns about the professionalism behind the As Ever brand. For someone who has often been in the public eye and faced intense scrutiny, one would expect Meghan to ensure every detail was meticulously handled. As the story spread, it became clear that Meghan's name alone would not be enough to protect the product from criticism and regulatory action. The jam's lack of compliance highlighted a fundamental issue. Branding without substance is not enough to sustain a luxury product. Without meeting basic food safety standards, even the most elegantly marketed item becomes nothing more than a liability. Potential safety risks. The lack of FDA compliance not only hurt Meghan Markle's reputation as an entrepreneur, but also raised significant safety concerns for potential consumers. Food safety regulations exist for a reason: to protect consumers from potential health risks associated with unknown ingredients, allergens, or contamination. Meghan's raspberry spread, lacking basic labeling, put consumers at risk without them even realizing it. Imagine purchasing what you believe to be a premium artisanal jam, only to later discover that you have no idea what ingredients were used. For people with allergies or dietary restrictions, this could pose a serious health threat. For instance, those allergic to certain fruits, preservatives, or additives could unknowingly consume something harmful, all because the product failed to disclose its content. Without a proper ingredients list or allergy warnings, consumers are left guessing, which is both unacceptable and dangerous. Moreover, the absence of batch numbers is another critical issue. In the event of contamination or a recall, batch numbers are essential to trace and remove problematic products from the market. Without them, it becomes nearly impossible to identify and manage potentially contaminated jars, putting countless consumers at risk. Such oversights are not just careless, they demonstrate a fundamental lack of responsibility towards consumer safety. Food safety advocates and industry experts expressed shock at the product's release without adhering to basic labeling laws. They emphasized that even small, local producers understand the importance of providing detailed information about their products. For a brand marketed as luxurious and high quality, failing to meet these basic standards was particularly damaging. Meghan's raspberry spread was no longer just a controversial luxury item. It was now seen as a potential health hazard. Consumer trust is the cornerstone of any successful food brand. Once that trust is broken, it is incredibly challenging to rebuild. People do not just buy jam for its flavor or packaging, they also buy it with the assumption that it has been vetted and deemed safe for consumption. Meghan's jam, however, shattered that assumption. The outcry from the public was swift, with many demanding accountability and questioning how such an oversight was allowed to happen. By neglecting FDA requirements, Meghan's brand failed to uphold the fundamental principles of food safety. In doing so, it not only risked the health of consumers, but also damaged her credibility as a responsible entrepreneur. The raspberry spread's downfall serves as a cautionary tale for celebrities attempting to enter industries where expertise and compliance are crucial to success. Or a trademarked issue. As if the compliance and safety concerns were not enough, Meghan Markle's raspberry spread faced yet another major setback: the rejection of the As Ever trademark application. In the world of branding, securing a trademark is crucial, as it protects the unique identity of a product and helps build consumer recognition. Unfortunately for Meghan, the trademark rejection highlighted another flaw in the product's launch: the lack of essential details about the product's origin and production. To successfully trademark a product, particularly in the food industry, applicants must provide clear information regarding the product's source, its composition, and the manufacturing process. This is especially important when the product is marketed as a luxury, handcrafted item, as it needs to meet higher standards of transparency. However, Meghan's application fell short in these areas, as the necessary information was either missing or insufficient. Trademarking is not just about securing a catchy name or a stylish logo. It is about proving that the product has a distinct identity that is legally protected. In Meghan's case, the lack of clarity around who was actually making the jam, where it was being produced, and what set it apart from other raspberry spreads led to the application being denied. The term, as ever, might have sounded sophisticated and timeless, but without proper documentation to back it up, it was little more than a brand name without substance. This legal hurdle not only delayed the product's official launch, but also raised questions about the professionalism of the entire venture. Critics pointed out that anyone entering the food business, especially at a high-profile level, should have a fundamental understanding of the legal requirements. Failing to secure a trademark not only undermined the brand's credibility, but also made it vulnerable to competitors who could easily replicate the concept or the name. Beyond the legal implications, this trademark issue reinforced the perception that Meghan's raspberry spread was more style than substance. It seemed as if the primary focus was on the aesthetics and branding rather than ensuring the product was legally viable. For a luxury product aiming to establish itself in the competitive food market, such oversight was damaging. The trademark rejection essentially meant that Meghan could not fully protect her brand, leaving it open to potential disputes and imitation. As news of the trademark failure spread, it added yet another layer of controversy to an already troubled product launch. Supporters hoped that Meghan would address the legal issues head-on and work to resolve the compliance failures. However, as of now, the raspberry spread remains in limbo, caught between a flawed branding strategy and a lack of legal grounding. This development left many wondering whether Meghan was genuinely committed to building a successful business or merely leveraging her fame to market an incomplete product. Misleading brand image. One of the most striking aspects of Meghan Markle's raspberry spread controversy is how the brand image was crafted versus the reality of the product. The As Ever brand was launched with the intention of presenting a luxurious, handcrafted and artisanal experience. The name itself, As Ever, aimed to evoke a sense of tradition, timelessness, and elegance. Yet when consumers and critics looked beyond the polished surface, they found little to support this high-end image. In the food industry, especially with boutique and handcrafted products, brands usually emphasize authenticity, transparency, and the personal touch involved in every step of the production process. Meghan's brand, however, seemed to skip this essential storytelling element. Instead of focusing on the origin of the raspberries, the craftsmanship involved, or even the passion behind the recipe, the marketing strategy seemed to revolve solely around Meghan's celebrity status. This disconnect between the brand's marketed identity and the actual product led to considerable backlash. Real artisanal jams often showcase the farmers who grow the fruit, the kitchens where small batches are carefully made, and the dedication to quality that makes each jar unique. Meghan's product, however, appeared more like a generic white-labeled jam, repackaged with a stylish label and an inflated price tag. Consumers felt that they were being sold an image rather than a genuinely crafted product. What made the situation worse was how the brand tried to create a false sense of exclusivity. By promoting the jam as a handcrafted delicacy, Meghan inadvertently set the expectations high. When it became evident that the product lacked the usual markers of artisanal quality, like clear ingredient sourcing or production transparency, the brand's credibility took a hit. Instead of feeling special and unique, the product seemed mass-produced, leading many to accuse Meghan of misleading consumers. Luxury branding requires more than just aesthetic appeal. It demands substance, quality, and most importantly, honesty about the product's origins and craftsmanship. In this case, the brand's attempt to appear high-end without the supporting elements came off as disingenuous. The polished social media presence and carefully curated imagery could not hide the fact that the jam itself did not live up to the luxurious image it aimed to portray. Consumers who were initially drawn in by the brand's promise of quality felt disappointed and in some cases deceived. The backlash was not just about the jam itself, but about the principle of selling an illusion rather than an authentic product. As more people became aware of the inconsistencies between the brand image and the actual product, the controversy only grew, turning what should have been a successful launch into a public relations nightmare. Consumer backlash. As the controversy surrounding Meghan Markle's raspberry spread continued to escalate, the most palpable reaction came from consumers themselves. In today's digital age, customer opinions can make or break a product, and the As Ever brand quickly found itself at the center of a social media storm. What started as curiosity and intrigue soon turned into criticism and disappointment, as consumers began voicing their frustrations across various platforms. The primary issue consumers had was the perceived deception. Initially marketed as a luxurious handcrafted and boutique product, the raspberry spread turned out to be something quite different. Once the glossy veneer of the marketing campaign faded, it became evident that the product lacked the essential qualities that typically define an artisan jam. Many felt that Meghan's celebrity status was being leveraged to sell a mass-produced item under the guise of exclusivity. This realization sparked outrage, with social media users labeling the product as overpriced and misleading. Comment sections filled with sarcastic remarks about how Meghan's involvement seemed limited to just posing with the product, rather than participating in its creation. Critics argued that the brand was more about creating a lifestyle illusion than delivering a genuinely unique culinary experience. It did not take long for hashtags mocking the product to start trending, and the backlash spread far beyond Meghan's usual critics. One of the most common complaints was the disparity between the product's marketing and its actual value. Consumers pointed out that genuinely artisanal jams usually emphasize quality ingredients, transparency, and a personal connection to the product. In contrast, Meghan's jam appeared to be a generic product dressed up with stylish packaging and celebrity endorsement. The inflated price only fueled the outrage, with many calling it a blatant cash grab. Food bloggers and culinary experts also weighed in, dissecting the marketing strategy and questioning why someone with such public scrutiny would overlook basic quality control. The lack of FDA compliance only made matters worse. As people began questioning whether the jam was even safe to consume, the narrative quickly shifted from excitement over a new celebrity brand to a debate about ethics, quality, and authenticity in luxury food products. Amidst the backlash, some supporters defended Meghan, arguing that the criticism was disproportionate and fueled by her celebrity status. However, even these voices were overshadowed by the growing consensus that the product simply did not live up to its promises. For many, this controversy was not just about jam. It was about trust in whether celebrities should be more accountable when launching products to the public. The fallout from this backlash put Meghan in a difficult position. As the criticism continued to mount, it became clear that regaining consumer trust would be an uphill battle. While the brand may have hoped to appeal to luxury lifestyle enthusiasts, it instead became a cautionary tale of how not to launch a celebrity-backed product. The damage to the As Ever brand was done, and it would take a considerable effort to restore its reputation in the eyes of the public. Perceived lack of involvement. One of the recurring criticisms regarding Meghan Markle's raspberry spread is the apparent disconnect between her personal involvement and the actual production process. As the controversy unfolded, it became increasingly evident that many consumers felt Meghan was merely a figurehead rather than an active participant in crafting the product. In the world of artisanal goods, especially those marketed as handcrafted delicacies, authenticity is paramount. Consumers want to feel a personal connection to the creator, which was sorely lacking in this case. The promotional content presented Meghan as the face of the brand, elegantly positioned with the product, but never actively participating in the jam-making process. There were no stories about her developing the recipe, no behind-the-scenes footage of her engaging with the production, and no personal anecdotes that tied her to the product's creation. Instead, it seemed as though the jam was manufactured separately, with Meghan's involvement limited to approving the label design and appearing in marketing materials. Critics were quick to draw comparisons to other celebrity brands where the founders are actively involved, sharing their personal passion and connection to the product. Whether it is a fashion line or a food brand, consumers expect a degree of hands-on involvement when the product is marketed as a passion project. In this case, however, the raspberry spread felt more like a business move rather than a labor of love, making it difficult for consumers to feel genuinely connected to the product. Furthermore, as more details about the jam's production surfaced, it became clear that the product was likely manufactured in a larger facility rather than a small, dedicated kitchen. This revelation added to the perception that Meghan had little to do with the actual process, reinforcing the belief that her primary role was simply lending her celebrity status rather than crafting a truly unique jam. This lack of personal involvement undermined the product's credibility as a luxury, handcrafted item. When consumers purchase something marketed as artisanal, they expect not only quality ingredients, but also a story behind the product, a sense of passion and dedication from the creator. Meghan's brand failed to deliver this connection, leaving buyers feeling disappointed and, in some cases, deceived. Addressing these concerns would require more than just damage control. It would involve rebranding the product to reflect a more honest and transparent approach. Whether Meghan decides to step back and admit the shortcomings or double down on the luxury branding remains to be seen. However, one thing is certain: without clear evidence of personal investment and involvement, the As Ever brand will continue to struggle in convincing consumers of its authenticity. Predicted business failure. As the controversy around Meghan Markle's raspberry spread continued to unfold, industry experts and consumers alike began to speculate on the product's future. From a business perspective, the launch of the As Ever raspberry spread was increasingly being viewed as a failure even before it had fully hit the shelves. The combination of legal issues, lack of transparency, consumer backlash, and questionable branding had created a perfect storm of negative publicity that seemed almost impossible to overcome. One of the fundamental issues was the brand's inability to establish itself as a trustworthy and high-quality product. In the food industry, especially within the artisanal and luxury segments, reputation is everything. When consumers purchase a high-priced, handcrafted item, they expect not only exceptional quality but also a compelling story behind it. Meghan's product, however, failed to deliver on both fronts. Without clear labeling or evidence of careful craftsmanship, the jam seemed to be more about capitalizing on Meghan's name than offering a genuinely superior product. Business analysts pointed out that even if Meghan were to address the FDA compliance issues and secure a trademark, the damage to the brand's image might already be irreversible. Once a product becomes synonymous with controversy and perceived dishonesty, it is challenging to win back consumer trust. This is especially true in the food market, where safety and authenticity are non-negotiable. The public's perception that Meghan's involvement was minimal only compounded the problem, as it gave the impression that the project lacked genuine passion or expertise. Another critical factor in the predicted failure is the oversaturation of the celebrity product market. In recent years, numerous celebrities have ventured into lifestyle and food brands, but not all succeed. Consumers have grown increasingly discerning and are quick to call out brands that appear to prioritize profit over quality. Meghan's raspberry spread, with its vague origins and high price, seemed to embody precisely what today's savvy consumers tend to reject. Marketing experts also noted that the initial concept itself may have been flawed. Positioning a mass-produced jam as a luxury, handcrafted product sets expectations that are almost impossible to meet unless the product truly lives up to the claim. When it became clear that the jam did not possess the artisanal qualities it boasted, consumers felt betrayed. This kind of brand disconnect can be fatal, as it leaves customers feeling exploited rather than engaged. Ultimately, the As Ever raspberry spread appears to be a textbook case of how not to launch a celebrity-backed product. Instead of grounding the brand in authenticity, quality, and transparency, it relied too heavily on Meghan's name and a glossy marketing campaign. As a result, the product now carries the stigma of being overpriced, misleading, and untrustworthy. Without a major overhaul and a complete rebranding effort, the product seems destined to end up discounted on clearance shelves rather than celebrated as a luxury success. Brand reputation concerns. Beyond the immediate issues with the raspberry spread itself, Meghan Markle's overall brand image as an entrepreneur has taken a significant hit. Celebrity ventures often walk a fine line between leveraging fame and building a credible business identity. Unfortunately, In Meghan's case, the controversy surrounding the As Ever jam has led many to question whether her foray into the lifestyle market was ever rooted in genuine passion or simply a quick business opportunity. The public's reaction to the failed product launch has sparked broader discussions about celebrity-backed brands in general. Meghan's attempt to present herself as an entrepreneur dedicated to quality craftsmanship now seems hollow, as the product itself contradicted that image. In the public eye, authenticity is crucial, and once it is compromised, it becomes increasingly difficult to rebuild. Meghan's reputation as a businesswoman is now closely tied to the perception of this failed product, making it challenging to move forward without addressing the underlying issues. Critics argue that Meghan's approach seemed more focused on aesthetics than substance, and this has damaged her credibility. In the past, successful celebrity brands have been built on a clear personal connection to the product, with the founders actively participating in development and sharing their stories. Meghan's lack of visible involvement and the apparent detachment from the production process gave the impression that she was simply lending her name to a generic item rather than passionately creating something unique. Furthermore, the controversy has not just impacted the product itself, but also Meghan's broader brand image. As someone who has often spoken about authenticity and empowerment, this misstep feels particularly contradictory. Consumers who once saw her as an advocate for quality and integrity are now questioning whether those values are truly reflected in her business ventures. The disconnect between her public persona and the reality of her entrepreneurial efforts has left many feeling disillusioned. Damage control at this stage would require more than just addressing the product's legal issues. Meghan would need to openly acknowledge the mistakes made and transparently explain what went wrong. Rebuilding consumer trust would involve a commitment to quality and authenticity, with clear evidence that future products will genuinely reflect those standards. Whether Meghan is willing to take this step remains uncertain, but without it, the brand risks being permanently associated with failed luxury ambitions. The long-term impact on her brand could extend beyond just the raspberry spread, potentially influencing how future projects are perceived. In the realm of celebrity entrepreneurship, once a reputation for quality is tarnished, it is tough to reclaim. Unless drastic measures are taken to rectify the situation, Meghan's lifestyle brand might struggle to be taken seriously, and the raspberry spread will serve as a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of prioritizing celebrity appeal over genuine product integrity.